Okay, you know how I always say it's impossible to have 1D shows without something going wrong? Well, guess whose OBS just crashed for no good reason? Oh man. It is literally a tradition at this point. Anyway, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by OBS kind of misbehaving itself there. Yeah, the PS5 and the kind of focus on ray tracing is interesting given how there's still so much more room for improvement on console. Like one thing that even a lot of console one thing that people just seem to constantly bang on about with this generation and this launch is just how so many games will still be running on 30 FPS at 4K, which is just not really acceptable for a $700 console that's without accessories. So that's kind of the big thing. And man, I want to support ray tracing. Issue is that people will see ray tracing take away their precious performance, which is a lot more precious on the console side than on the PC side, and they'll say, oh, and then that will translate over to PC. They will say, oh, well, what's the need? Look what's happening with consoles. Look at all the resources it's sapping away. Look how people are focusing on that instead of focusing on better performance or better resolution without having to upscale. And that is going to unfortunately have an impact, I feel, on the way things are in the world of PC gaming. Anyway, then there is the brand new AI-driven upscaling, which again we have very little details on. It's called a PSSR, which is what if Sony created their own Soviet Socialist Republic, that's what it will be called. We don't really know much else. And what I find very interesting is that they didn't just go with FSR, something with established branding, something that's just already made to work on any hardware, including on AMD's own hardware powering the PlayStation 5. And instead, we have this PSSR. Apart from the fact that it's AI-driven upscaling, like most upscaling, we don't really know anything else, which is, again, weird. Pretty much, if there's one word that sums up this presentation, it's just weird. Nothing about, anything makes sense in this presentation about how Sony handled the whole thing. The layout of it is just so weird. They constantly switch topics and what they're talking about. It's actually difficult to follow. When I was just shifting through it, trying to find all the bits I need for my video about it, I actually had so much difficulty finding the fragments I need, just because they changed topics so frequently. And as I was saying before OBS crashed, yeah, the differences are so minute that I can't imagine too many people are gonna be. Well, okay, I say that. Sony fanboys are, of course, going to go after this thing. I've already seen that things like the optical drive accessory are already sold out, which is just depressing. We cannot, I tweeted about it as well, but we cannot allow them to make diskless consoles the standard. That'll be just the death of everything we know and love about the industry. Again, more just completely identical looking. Okay, this one isn't too identical, you can definitely see it in trees, but again, how much is it gonna matter? We just have to wait and see. I was talking about how the larger GPU stuff is done because they don't actually say what the new specs are. They just say it's faster, more compute units, but they don't say by how many. Oh yeah, and then there's another thing I've kind of when I was speaking to someone about this recently is why bother getting a PS5 when all of the games are coming to the PC anyway? However, literally the only PS5 exclusive I actually care about is still an exclusive, and it doesn't look like that's changing, and that's Gran Turismo 7. Granted, I saw some report out there recently that said that GT7 could be coming to PC. If so, that would be amazing, and I hope it does, and given the current strategy of re-pushing as many of the IPs to PC, I think that could be I think that's very much possible. But still, which has to wait and see. In general, I even saw some like very new reporting about it, how they're just shifting the strategy over to release as many of the games as possible on PC. That points, paints a very interesting picture of what even the future of consoles is. Right? Because the point of consoles the longest time was just having the kind of performance per dollar that you cannot get with a PC, and also exclusives. Well, the exclusive haven't been exclusive for a while. On Xbox, pretty much everything is co-released, and there's like pretty much nothing that is exclusive to the Xbox that you can't also just play on a PC. And now on PlayStation, it's basically the same thing happening as well. And then the whole really unbeatable value thing is also kind of suffering when all of a sudden you have a console with all of the accessories costing you over $800. So hey, console industry, how are you hanging in there? And then there's just like Nintendo, who do their own thing, who have a console which has the guts of an Nvidia Shield from like 10 years ago now, and is still selling just the most units of anything by far. It's such a weird world we live in. Speaking of pricing, do they show the pricing here? Oh, this annoyed me. This absolutely annoyed me. How on earth is the price, like not the price is the same, but how is it both 700 in US dollars and also in pounds? They are very much not equal. As someone who does pretty much buys everything in pounds, but then pretty much does all business on the business side of things in dollars, I can guarantee you they are nowhere near the same. So why on earth are they all of a sudden listed here as both $699.99 in USD and $699.99 in GBP? I don't know if it's something to do with like add taxes or something with VAT. It says includes taxes. So maybe with like the VAT, I know that you don't have like VAT in America, but they have some weird like sales tax or something. I don't know. I have no idea how all of that works in the States. So yeah, Sony are getting clowned on pretty hard about on this. The like to dislike ratio definitely isn't lying, even though again, return YouTube dislikes. I know that's not really not really a fair thing, but still, I know it's not super obvious. There's some other things that they included: variable refresh rate, which sure, fine. I don't think too many people care that much. The 3D audio, cool. They had the 8K support, which yeah, maybe if you're buying a $800 console, you probably have better odds than most of having an 8K TV, but that's still very much wishful thinking, especially seeing how performance-wise on 4K it's already having issues. So again, unless the upscaler is just amazing, that ain't happening. 2 terabyte SSD is standard. That's fine, I guess. That's one way to kind of justify the price. High speed storage definitely isn't cheap. And if you were to buy like a 2 terabyte like Gen 4 SSD for a PC, I mean, that would be like what? I'm not too familiar with pricing right now, but I would assume at least $200. Let me quickly check. If it is, then that kind of just shows you the perspectives of what the breakdown costs of a console are. Even on a they went way down in price. You can get like a Gen 4 one for like £100. Okay, but still, so £100, let's say $150, whatever. It still shows you the breakdown of a cost of a console, right? When out of those $700, $150 is just SSD. And it's still going to be very difficult to match that performance. Okay, huge asterisk on that. We are going to have to wait and see. I'm very, very curious how easy or difficult it's going to be to match the performance of the PS5 Pro with a PC, be it like new parts, used parts, whatever. With used parts, it's definitely doable. We've seen people already do it with the Xbox Series X and PS5 non-Pro, being able to just match the performance with used parts or like very like last-gen parts. Granted, they were able to match the price, but there's all the convenience of an out-of-the-box experience of a console. But still, I want to know your thoughts about this. I'm not going to ask you if you're going to get a PS5 because I probably know the answer already, and that is I don't think any of you watching right now are going to be getting this thing. So, but I want to know, is $700 for all of this okay? For 45% faster rendering, for the larger SSD, for the 8K support, for the Wi-Fi 7 very refresh rate, the new AI upscaling, everything that adds. Speaking of AI upscaling, actually, should I do that as my next topic, or should I go more into covering what I saw in IFA? Let's do this next. Let's do this next, shall we? And that is FSR 4. And it is supposed to include some big new AI changes. That is going to be interesting. That is going to be very, very cool. FSR is very competitive. However, there's one major problem. What I imagined was going to be a huge marketing push for FSR. Nvidia's Nvidia. Their stuff market itself, DLSS, is obviously the way more known option, even if it's only exclusive to Nvidia graphics cards. It has the better marketing and everything. But what I thought would be an amazing shot to really get FSR out of, to show its potential, will be with the addition of FSR 3 to Cyberpunk 2077. When I did my initial video on DLSS versus FSR versus XCSS in Cyberpunk, like, FSR was very surprisingly good, and I was like so ready, so absolutely ready to get into it and make another video in Cyberpunk, and it barely works. The performance is terrible compared to DLSS, and there's other parts of the game that are just outright broken. Plus, it's just FSR 3, not FSR 3.1. Oh, people are saying something in chat. I should probably pay attention to it. Isn't the 5600X the same performance of the PS5 Pro CPU? The PS5 Pro doesn't have a new CPU, which is the same as the PS5. I honestly don't know what the equivalent is. Let me quickly Google that. PS5 CPU. I honestly have no idea how many cores it even has. It kind of shows my interest in consoles right about now. It is a Zen 2 8-core CPU. So Zen 2, that's gonna be what? Ryzen 3000. So like a 3700X, which, hey, is actually my previous CPU. If I remember, yeah, my previous CPU is 3700X. Yeah. So that should give you some idea. So 3700X versus 5600X, yeah, that should probably be about the generational translation there. But the closer comparison would be the 3700X, because it's the same core count and also the same microarchitecture. Most devs are so slow to implement latest FSR, it's annoying. Absolutely. It's one of those things that is really, really annoying, and one of the things that definitely isn't helping, and also one of the reasons why AMD has been so adamant recently, just talking about market share. Market share, market share, market share. They want to have that market share, and they don't care about anything else. So hopefully, with whatever the new strategy is, with the brand new UDNA architecture, by trying to go after like as broad market share as possible, it's going to work out, and it's going to get better. It's going to have better support, but we have to wait and see. One thing I'm curious about, if like anyone works in development or has any kind of inside info about this, is the reason for FSR's slow adoption. Is it simply just that studios didn't see it as much of a priority as DLSS, or is it just like technically difficult to implement? If someone knows, please let me know. I'm actually kind of curious about that. So yeah, FSR 4 is a thing with a huge focus on AI. We can definitely expect, with the transition to UDNA, that the brand new consumer graphics cards are going to inherit a lot of the better AI acceleration of the enterprise solutions AMD currently offers on the architecture. So FSR 4 on that is going to be pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Solahara says, well, I think AMD's doing the right thing because NVIDIA is difficult to beat now. It is, however, one thing that a lot of people kind of talk about when and critique AMD on when it comes to the decision to not even contest in the high end. And one thing that I've also been very critical of AMD about is that flagships, sure, not many people buy them, but they are fantastic marketing. People will see which company is on top when it comes to performance on the high end, and then on that they'll have a positive opinion of a company when buying the more budget option, right? That's why so many people have such a great opinion of NVIDIA graphics cards. They see what these things can do, what a 4090 or 4080 can do. They see what the videos about what DLSS can do, and those cards get the most coverage, right? Already, the 7900 XT and XTX, they got a decent amount of coverage for being flagships, but not as much as something like the 4090, which is just the golden standard of graphics cards right now. It is the graphics card to get if you have like infinite money. It is the graphics card that is every gamer's dream. That is beautiful marketing. It reminds me back of the 1080 Ti days. Like the 1080 Ti, that was just the graphics card in any conversation, right? When I discuss like anything PC related, or like PC plans, or like discussing PC performance, it would always just come down to 1080 Ti performance, and like nothing else mattered than what the 1080 Ti was doing. It was the talk of the town. And that's the thing, if AMD want to have the chance of getting that market share, they need good marketing. AMD has always been very, very bad in marketing, at least on the Radeon side, and not having a flagship to do their marketing for them, it is very much going to hurt them, which is just unfortunate. It is very much unfortunate. We'll see how the strategy of trying to get a market share without a flagship is going to go. I'm very curious about how that's going to go down. So yeah, going back to the FSR situation on Cyberpunk 2077, however. So I was planning on making a video about this. I literally gave up halfway through because I thought that it was just such a mess that it was just like not ready, that it was just so buggy. I thought I was just gonna give it time until they fix it. But then I saw other YouTubers make videos about it like right out of the gate, talking about how broken it is, and that kind of made me a bit jealous. I was like, I should probably make a video talking about how broken it is as well. That should be good for views. So I think I'm still gonna do that, and then make another follow-up video when it actually works properly. Because yeah, the performance isn't bad, but also it's extremely buggy, and the performance is bad, I mean, but there's also a lot of other weird bugs. For example, you can't toggle ultra performance mode in FSR 3, and also you can't play full screen for some reason. So when I was trying to do the testing in 4K and in 4040p, in 4040p the game didn't even cover the whole screen, because it was just a small window within my larger 4K display, because full screen was an option, and window borderless didn't also scale to the full thing. It's just so dumb. It actually just doesn't work. I thought they're gonna make Cyberpunk 2. Yeah, honestly, seeing how long the first one took, like the first reveal trailer came out in like 2013 versus 2020 when the full game came out. It's actually going to be 4 years since Cyberpunk 2077 came out. That is, what is time anymore? What is time anymore? So yeah, I wonder how much of it is the fault of FSR, how much of it is the fault of developers for how bad the launch has been. I'm just kind of glad that they are still updating the game, that they are still adding all of these new technologies to it. That is great to see. However, I just wish it came out less buggy. There's a joke I can make there, but I'm not going to do it, because I very much loved Cyberpunk 2077 since launch, so I don't want to make that joke. What you notice, my teacup here is very much Cyberpunk colored, even though it's not another Cyberpunk cup, it's a Plants vs Zombies one. So that's fitting. What should we talk about next here? I think we should just go into some of the stuff I saw at IFA, however, EFA, I have no idea. Is it IFA? I have no idea how it's actually pronounced. Like I was saying before the stream crashed, it was my first time going to it, and I wasn't really aware that such a big show even existed in Europe. For me, the big shows are always just Computex, CES. I was aware that IFA existed, but I didn't know it would be so ginormous. However, now that it is over, it is also time to start preparing for the big one. Because CES, you think that CES is far away. We are in September and it's happening in early January. So it's already that time that we have to prepare. Now, you probably know that when it was my first time going to Computex this year, and it's gonna be the first time going to CES, and I scraped literally every penny possible just to make that trip to Computex possible. It was an absolute miracle that it happened. And now, doing the same for CES. However, it is just going to be on a completely different scale. Not only will we be staying much longer there, but also, after Computex, I told myself, that is the very first and last time I'm doing a big show like that on my own. And then I went to IFA all on my own. And after IFA, I said to myself, that is the last time I'm doing such a big show on my own. But this time I mean it. So to CES, I am hoping to take people with me to really make the most of it. So if you want to help support this channel so we can go to CES this year, it's definitely going to be a big ask. It is going to be just a huge expense to take not just me but others for so long there. Even just a super chat, right, is going to go a long way. You can check us out on Patreon. You can become a YouTube member for exclusive videos. You can even use our Amazon Associates links to literally buy anything you were going to buy anyway from Amazon. That's the great thing about those links, right? Any shopping you could do on Amazon, if you just use our links, if you get to Amazon using our links, then you don't pay anything extra. Well, we get some of the money back that goes straight into this CES trip. I had people literally buy like tomato soup. I had people buy mosquito spray. Just random stuff like that. There's like, what do you call it? Like those like airport tips for tires. Yeah, those. Especially because recently I've been already traveling so much. There was, IFA in Berlin, and if you don't know, because of all of these cost savings, I decided to not buy a hotel in Berlin, but instead to travel to Berlin from Poland every day. So that was absolutely fun. And there was just so many other expenses, all the recent kind of trips planned and unplanned that I had to do to go to Poland recently. I also recently had to pay a bunch just to repair a car out of my own pocket. A car I don't even drive. It's just our family car in Poland. It cost a bunch just to get it repaired. So yeah, it all adds up. So if you want to make this trip to CES possible and as like fruitful as possible for us, definitely support the channel in any way you can. It truly does go a long way. It's going to be a stretch to get everything required in 3 months. Well, not even that, because we have to purchase everything beforehand. Like, hotel tickets, plane tickets, everything has to be bought way before that. So it is going to be very much a race against time, but it's going to be so worth it if we want to attend the biggest show ever. And it's going to be big. Like I said, I'll be bringing others with me because it's difficult to do a show like that on my own, especially given all of the stuff I carry. And also just makes it that it's difficult to make content where you're the host. Because obviously you're the one holding camera, there's no one else to hold a camera for me. Granted, when I was at Computex, I did actually make one video where I was able to host from the show floor, and that's because the guy at the Zotac booth actually was kind enough to hold my camera gear for me and just record me. He was actually so kind that he did it. So I was able to host that one video. One thing I've seen a lot of people do, both at IFA recently, but also at Computex. I specifically remember seeing when I met Wendell from Level 1 Tech at the ASRock booth, just having, you know, a very small compact camera, and then just having the mic put on it but facing towards you, and then basically giving live commentary as you kind of, you know, just film over everything. That is good in, and then like pointing at everything. That is good in theory. However, again, it's not the way I want to do things, because I prefer being, you know, the face of the content. I have the very strong philosophy of having people are attracted to faces. I don't know who on earth is attracted to my face, probably no one, but still you get my point. I like just having me be there showing everything instead of just having a finger pointing at it and just having just B-roll in a way that is a lot more engaging to the viewer. Another issue is that my gear is absolutely massive. If you don't know, my main camera, which I'm using right now, but which I also use for events, is the Blackmagic Pocket 6K Pro. Don't ask me why it's called a pocket when it's so big and so heavy. And with the DJI RS4 Pro gimbal on top of it, because a heavy camera requires a big and heavy gimbal, it all adds up very, very quickly. So I get, you know, I can't really point at anything. I can't really do much else apart from using the gear. It's difficult for me to kind of talk over it because I'm just constantly just exhausted from holding all of this. I have so much other stuff, you know, my backpack with all the stuff, all the bags with like the freebies that they give out to media. It's a lot. It's a lot. So having more people there is going to just open up so many opportunities for the content. Another reason why I am doing this is just to kind of really make it seem more professional. You know, at CES, I feel like it was already great to be able to kind of showcase myself there and be able to have more companies learn that we exist. However, at the same time, one thing that I kind of really hate, and one thing I'm definitely, I guess you could say, cautious about, is just not really seeming like that companies don't perceive me as being super professional. Okay, no, that's a bad way of phrasing it. Basically, I absolutely hated when people consider me less professional than I am. Everything about running this YouTube channel, you know, the company around it, going to these events with this massive, huge equipment that costs thousands of dollars, you know, to the point where I'm even just, you know, just so exhausted from holding all of it, right? It always tries to go towards seeming as professional as possible, right? And I always just hated when people don't consider me as professional as I am. It's definitely a pet peeve of mine. And even at Computex already, there was, you know, sometimes some exhibitors, I'm not gonna name any names, that I feel definitely didn't take me as seriously as they probably should have, and it's just some kid with a camera, like, you know, who cares about him? So having people with you, I think will definitely go a long way to hide it. Obviously, there's some stuff that will always be a roadblock in an area, primarily the channel size, right? You know, no matter how professional, I could show up with a, you know, several cameras. I could show up with like several drones hovering around me, capturing everything I do. I could just show up in a limousine outside, but it would not matter because it'll make a great first impression, but then the second that all of the, you know, PR, marketing, and media people I meet at an event look at a channel, all of a sudden they think, you know, like, who is this guy? And so having more people around me just to make it seem more professional, having that kind of team is definitely going to help. So I can just snap my fingers, just have them come behind me and act serious. And if they still don't take me seriously, then we'll gang up and beat them up. Just joking, kind of. Actually, imagine just like rolling up with a crew, just snap my fingers like, hey, that guy over there at that booth, right? Beat him up until he wants to do business with us. I don't think that would go down well. How long have I been doing the show for already? Half an hour. Wow, time really does fly when you're having fun, huh? Do you have any like other topics I should really want to do? Let's see here. let's see here. Pretty much my giant plug for CS and helping us go to CES is over. Again, super chats, Patreon, YouTube memberships, all of that does really go a long way. Even just subscribing, right? Because like I just said, one of the big obstacles that has always been kind of difficult to overcome is people just look at the channel, see that it has what are we on, like 16,000 subscribers after the 11 years I've been uploading here, and they think like, you know, like, why should we work with this kid? that's always going to be the biggest obstacle. So if you can just subscribe, that would in itself just go such a long way in kind of helping to overcome that, really. Just make sure they don't steal the camera. I'd say at a show like Computex, you know, it's I'd say it's pretty secure. And you know, not to have like, this is really a bad thing when it's like a positive stereotype, but you know, in that part of the world, it's generally pretty safe. People don't really steal there in places like Taiwan, so it's generally fine. Ooh, okay. One more topic then before we end things here, and that is we have our final list of the brand new Intel Arrow Lake CPUs, or Intel Core Ultra as they are, you know, formally called now. I still find it kind of dumb that they reset the numbering at the same time the numbering was getting kind of out of hand. So yeah, these are Intel Arrow Lake, aka Intel 15 Gen, aka whatever you want to call it. These are the desktop CPUs coming later this year for the brand new socket LGA 1849. I actually can't remember what the socket is called now, and it doesn't say here, which is kind of annoying. Oh, that's another thing. You can't highlight anything in video cards anymore. You can highlight here, but you can't highlight the story itself. Apparently because I saw them complaining on Twitter recently about other websites just stealing their articles word for word, which is obviously just like, you know, not cool. But I guess the solution to it was that you just can't highlight anything, so you can't Control C, Control V. And you can't even like shift or control. I remember there was like some method that you could do it, because I remember back when I was in school, there was some website we had to use for one of the subjects where they had a kind of similar technology implemented, where you just couldn't like highlight text so people can copy it, but I still like, and within 5 seconds I found a way to still be able to highlight the text. I can't remember how now, and I can't remember what website or anything, but still. Hopefully not rebranded 14th gen. Don't worry, Solar Holler, because these are brand new architecture, brand new socket, brand new everything, brand new naming scheme. So we are getting the 5 CPUs at launch. One thing of note is that we are not getting a 285KF. That is why there's only 5 and not 6. So we aren't getting a GPU-less flagship. Speaking of, this exactly here is the flagship, 8 performance cores, 16 efficiency cores, because I think Intel has learned, which was it? Was it like the 10th or 11th Gen 1 when they went up to 10 cores? And then they went straight back down to 8 cores because it just wasn't worth it. And it's still kind of interesting that Intel hasn't really made anything for the kind of more enthusiast range, where the kind of the 12 core 16 core Ryzen CPUs are, before you get into the Threadripper territory. Like for example, I have my 7950X, the 16 core one, because it's, you know, great for video editing, it's great for live streaming, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of surprised that Intel don't have their own equivalent of that isn't going all the way to Xeon. Don't quote me on that fully. Maybe there's some Xeons that don't have like you know, the super high Xeon pricing, but still offer the higher core counts, but still the kind of good gaming performance you would expect from flagship, you know, Ryzen 9 CPUs. So don't fully quote me on that, but I highly doubt it. I would have probably heard more if there was a Xeon like that. So yeah, full specs up to 5.7 gigahertz total boost, base processor base power 125 watts, maximum turbo power 250 watts, ladies and gentlemen. Whew, that's a lot. That's a lot, and obviously integrated graphics because again, it's not they're not doing a KF unit at launch, which is a bit weird, I gotta say. Because again, having a kind of performance crown, like I was talking about earlier, for Radeon, is important. But also, what the KFs always allowed Intel to do is, you know, to have that gaming crown, have that kind of king CPU, but then also have that version for people who for people to save a buck who don't need integrated graphics, right? So most people do not need a 285K because, like, who would actually use integrated graphics on that kind of system unless it was just for troubleshooting purposes? So the KF was the great way to have the performance crown, but also offer people a nice discount there. However, they're not doing that at launch for some reason. I have no idea why. So yeah, this is their brand new naming scheme. The 285K is the brand new flagship. The kind of 9, 7, and 5 naming scheme kind of continues, and it goes all the way down to the 245K and KF. It is going to be weird getting used to this brand new naming scheme. However, hopefully it is going to become, you know, natural over time. These things are supposed to be launching in October, kind of like October 17th, October 24th, as it says here. Odds are we probably won't be getting any unless like Intel just remembers we exist before then. We'll see, we'll see. Though we do have some quite a few other interesting kind of projects coming up, especially after IFA. Lots of new partners coming up, so don't worry. Hopefully one day Intel will finally realize we exist, but in the meantime there's like other cool items, cool tech coming in for us to cover. Anyway, we've been doing this for how long now? I'd say this is a good time to kind of end the show. I've pretty much done everything. I've complained about the PS5. I begged for money for CES. I kind of talked about how broken Cyberpunk 2077's FSR implementation is. So I think it is time to kind of end here. As always, let me know all your thoughts on all of this. Leave a super chat if you really enjoyed the show. Become a member, whatever else. And I guess that's about it. So if you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe, like, whatever. And I see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Been praying this whole time. Guess it's time to let go. I see clear when I open my eyes. Now that your body's so cold, drinking way too much now. All I hear is to let go.